What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is all about the Viper Probe droid. Everybody's seen it, but there's a ton of cool information about it that you might not know. So let's go ahead and jump into it. It was manufactured by Rocket Industries, a company that was based on the planet Mechas 3. This planet was home to a bunch of other companies that made droids, and thus was the #1 supplier of droids throughout the galaxy. And you might remember this place from our Legends IG-88 video, because a planet full of droids was the best place to start the droid rebellion. The Viper Probe droid, also known as the Probot, was based on earlier designs from Galileo Industries, which were producing similar droids way back in the Old Republic era. Thousands of years later, Rocket Industries would take over the corporation Viper Sensor Intelligence Systems during the Clone Wars. With this new technology, Rocket Industries was able to produce a brand new probe droid. It was 1.6 meters, or about 5¼ feet tall. It had one blaster cannon and a self-destruct mechanism, something that Han Solo realized on Hoth. This ability to destroy itself was to make sure that its enemy didn't know what it was tracking. This droid is intended for recon, and so its most important equipment is its integrated droid brain, the repulsor generator which gets it up in the air, the manipulator arms and the sensor arms, which can be used to sift through people's belongings or uncover something that was hidden. It also had an atmosphere sensor, a motion sensor with a range up to 100 meters, and a long-range sensor that could go anywhere from 200 meters to 5 kilometers. That means that this little droid was able to pick up any signs of life or transmissions anywhere within 3 miles of it. Transmissions were sent via this broadcast antenna, and when it was sending information, you could actually hear a sort of computer Morse code. And on top of all this super high-tech stuff, it also had, of course, a flashlight. The large camera located on the front of the Viper droid allowed its Imperial commander to see the planet it was on in real time. And what was really important is that the Empire didn't have to be near these things in order for them to operate. They weren't deployed by local ships, but instead by Galactic Empire command centers. This made the Viper droid much more covert, as the star system could be completely devoid of Imperial entanglements. But all of a sudden one day, a one-way hyperspace pod would deliver the Viper droid out of nowhere and onto the planet that needed inspection. Once the Viper droid was there, it set about doing its thing, collecting data and sending it back to HQ, while floating around at a top speed of 40 kilometers or about 25 miles per hour. These things were incredibly useful, but they definitely weren't cheap, with an average cost of 14,500 credits each. That's about the same price as 7 B-1 battle droids, and only 5.5 grand cheaper than a Vulture droid. But now let's talk a little bit about its history. They were first being built for the Galactic Republic, but during the Clone Wars, the Confederacy of Independent Systems also got their hands on some of these, and even did some upgrades on them, before using these probe droids during their invasion of Kashyyyk. Later, it would be Darth Vader who came up with the idea of adding a blaster cannon and a self-destruct mechanism, and he even wanted some of them to be built with deflector shields, and he even had some built that had deflector shields. Since most of these were built on Mechas 3, when IG-88 started his droid rebellion, he was able to alter their programming without their makers or the Empire noticing, so that all of the probe droids that were sent out across the galaxy were also broadcasting their information to IG-88. They were also used to spy on some civilian populations and help keep order in the Outer Rim territories. Perhaps their biggest discovery in the history of their use was 6 months after the Battle of Yavin, when a Viper droid was instrumental in discovering Echo Base. And there are even some accounts of Viper droids being used by the Imperial Remnant after the death of Palpatine. In the year 14 ABY, a Jedi by the name of Jaden Korr had a run-in with a Viper droid again on the planet Hoth. And that's where its history ends, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and some behind-the-scenes stuff. The famous artist Jean Mobius Garrard's design inspired the build for the probe droid used in The Empire Strikes Back. This artist inspired a lot of the look of many places in Star Wars, and it's said that Coruscant was heavily influenced by a lot of his drawing. George Lucas's first film, THX 1138, featured a bunch of radio voices that sound a lot like the noises made by Viper probe droids. And if you're anything like me, when you're playing Battlefront, you get way more scared seeing this thing on the map than you do any stormtrooper. Well, that's it for the Viper Probe droid. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdsLore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. But more important than all that, remember, and the Force will be with you, always.